Welcome back to Feels Like Weezer, where we're going over, discussing track by track, song by song, all of Weezer's catalog from the Blue Album to Van Weezer. I'm Eric Nash from Almost Famous Minute.
And I'm Zach Franking-Smith. You can follow me on Twitter at The Informal Log.
Yeah. Zach, it's been a while, right?
I know. Yeah. It's, boy, it's been kind of crazy recently, just getting everything going. It's summertime when the weather is fine. Was that a Beatles song?
No, don't think so.
Okay. Have you been doing anything fun so far this summer?
Well, I'm in lockdown, so
right.
I'm just being really safe, really careful. Besides my essential work and getting to like groceries and some very fundamentals, but no unnecessary outings.
Right. Yeah, I get that. And I've got a pregnant wife and a small child, so I'm the one who goes out and does everything. But yeah, man, it's nuts. Everything here now is, whatever. It's free for all here in Iowa. So it's a great place to live, let me tell you. It's fantastic. But yeah, man, summertime. I'm still sweaty constantly. We're bringing that chestnut back. So what are we going to talk about today, Eric?
I think this is a special episode. What we do for our seasons. This is essentially the start of the new season as far as our show, and that's per album essentially. And this album that we're going over now is Make Believe.
Oh, let me tell you, I wish I could make believe that this never happened. No, that's not true. So before we kind of get into like the history of the album and everything, because I for this one especially, I want to kind of get a barometer for us. Like, what do we feel about this album before we start talking about it, song by song? Mm-hmm. So how do you feel about this album, as of right now, without going too far of a deep dive into it?
Right. It's I think it's not a standout album. It's not one I think about as being, oh, okay, yeah, I definitely want, if I want to listen to some Weezer, yeah, I'm definitely going to go to Make Believe first and then work my way down, thinking about,
Yeah, man, Make Believe.
All the ones I know I like an awful lot, So, but it's not one that I'm averse to either. I mean, on a pretty recent, just I think essentially 2 days ago, I think, listening through, or no, one day even, yesterday morning. I gave it
crack open a nice cold cup of Weezer to get your day started.
I gave it one
off
listening
right.
then, and it's pretty good. It's pretty listenable. There's a point here or there where these songs aren't great Weezer, but I don't think they're bad Weezer either.
Yeah,
that's yet to come.
In my opinion.
This is not as bad as I think some out there make it seem to be.
I'm with you there. I hadn't, and it's weird because I haven't really listened to this album much besides what we've kind of done for a cursory listen at the beginning, which is very strange because this was like right when I was in high school was when this came out. Like I was deep in the Beverly Hills era, and so you would think that this would be like my most familiar album, but no, like I've listened to this maybe 4 or 5 times all the way through since it came out, and that goes for, like, I've only heard Perfect Situation, a few times before I've started listening to it on repeat because we're talking about it. But yeah, I think and for one, it's okay. I mean, it's not great. There's definitely some snoozers on here, and kind of listening to it recently, it's like, okay, this isn't great, but it's not bad, So I'm very interested in finding out why people don't like this album. With I mean, when you look at it on the surface, it looks like it was a win. I mean, you've got Beverly Hills, which is honestly one of the most recognizable songs of all time. I will go down in history saying that 40 years from now, you start playing that opening riff to Beverly Hills, people are going to be able to catch on to it and know what it is. And especially at that time, like 2005, 2006, I mean, it was in everything, commercials and movies. I mean, you couldn't, turn on a TV without hearing it. It was ridiculous. Do you remember the crazy, oversaturation of Beverly Hills?
Yeah, I definitely have a familiarity with thinking about back at that time. Yeah, it was out there. It was seeping into all the mainstream.
Exactly. I mean, it's probably their most recognizable song, and I'm including "Island in the Sun" there, which is also another one of those songs that was everywhere when it came out. And also, it was their first song nominated for a Grammy, which is disappointing for me, just because there's so many better songs. But, I mean, it's a platinum album, it was incredibly lucrative, and, the Rivers, his writing, it was back to that kind of like lyrical and more personal songwriting style that he used to have with like Pinkerton and Blue, and to an extent Maladroit. So, it's everything that Weezer fans would have wanted, but I just don't get why, like, everyone hates this album.
And I hate absolutes like that.
Yeah. So, absolutely.
It's not everyone.
Yeah, okay. All right. I almost everyone. Right. There we go. Let me qualify it here for you. So, like, kind of looking into the history of the album, so like starting it, pre-recording and demoing started before Maladroit was released, and it took him like 3 years to write this album, so Carl Koch, unofficial fifth member of Weezer, and the band, they'd upload like early demo versions of songs for a fifth album, which they didn't have a name for it yet, but then after their Maladroit tour, they scrapped the whole thing and just started from scratch, which is interesting. It's an interesting. It's an interesting move to take there, Rivers.
Well, and I'm familiar with other bands that have done that kind of something similar, but not necessarily maybe just because of their feelings about what's happening with it, where it's going. It's more like right. I think what isn't it the Green Day American Idiot debacle is that they had a whole bunch of stuff recorded and it got stolen or something.
Really?
Yeah, things like that happening, and that's why. But a whole start over from scratch would happen.
Yeah. Well, join us for a sequel podcast, 50 Shades of Green, where we go through Green Day's entire discography, song by song, track by track. You can hear my child being tortured in the background right now, which is great. But they didn't have their stuff stolen, so that ended up with like hundreds of songs that Rivers wrote, and they demoed during that time period that just kind of got left on the cutting room floor. But we did get to hear some of these on Death to False Metal, including their amazing cover of Unbreak My Heart, which was one of the songs they covered at this time. Also, I think it's worth noting that this is the first album that they actually release like a full cover of a song, like as a part of their main album. Ooh. Right? What? Isn't it Best Friends? Isn't Best Friends You're my best friend and I love you. Yes, I do. Eric.
Is that the? Are you talking about the Queen song?
Well,
who did the original of the song you're talking about?
Oh man, I shouldn't have said this. Best Friends, Weezerpedia. My best friend. Oh no. Wait. Hold on a second.
Yeah, I mean, because on Weezerpedia for the Make Believe, for the album itself, track listing says all songs written and composed by Rivers Cuomo. So we're not getting to a album or even
what?
EP or single, B-side, whatever.
I
not
don't-
yet. Still not
I don't
yet have we
believe
have
this.
have we had a cover that they released on their through one of their records. And so it's only the two that were the compilations.
In all of my research, boy, did I screw that up.
Yeah.
I'm cutting that whole thing out.
Ah,
Because I don't want to look like an idiot. No, I'm kidding. We'll find out. We'll see what happens. So anyway, while they were writing this album, Rivers kind of went through like a spiritual change within himself. He thanks Rick Rubin, their producer at the time. He introduced him to Vipassana meditation, which you obviously know all about, right, Eric?
sure.
As a practitioner. But for those in the audience who don't, it's a self-oriented meditation process. So it's about introspection. It's about, looking in on yourself and figuring out what you can be better for you. So it literally translates to special seeing, but they, Buddhists or whoever practices this, they refer to it as insight. So again, looking into yourself. So it's designed to help you find the 3 marks of existence. And I'm going to screw this up real bad. I tried to find pronunciations, but I couldn't. Anicca, which is impermanence. Dukkha, gol dukat. Dukkha, suffering, unsatisfactoriness is what that is. And anatta, which is the non-self. It also teaches you about morality, mindfulness of breathing, reflection, that kind of stuff. Or something like that. You can definitely Google if you want to find out more. But let me tell you, that was what I gleaned from from my research on Vipassana. But you can really see that when you look at the lyrics from this album. Rivers said that many of the songs were a return to musical, emotional bloodletting, which is like super metal sounding, So you kind of get to see his writing style change from this kind of, especially you see in Green where it's, okay, I'm just going to churn this out, make pop ballads, and then be fine, to a more introspective kind of thing. So the song Pardon Me was written after a meditation course, and the teacher made him repeat, I seek pardon from all those who have harmed me in action, speech, or thought. And that's reflected within the song, which I think is interesting.
Well, but how could he write it? Because that was a song by Incubus. This is a cover, right?
Okay. Are you making fun of me now? This podcast is over. Pack it up! We're done! Yes. So he also wrote Hold Me, which is one of my favorite songs on the album, while he was fasting, which is not one of my favorite things to do. So I don't do it. Most kind of, one of the songs that I think kind of is more, let me try that sentence again. You can really see that he's writing emotionally with the song The Other Way, because this was written for Cuomo's ex-girlfriend, Jennifer Chiba. So it was after her boyfriend at the time, Elliott Smith, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Oh yeah, I do love one album of his,
right?
XO.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
album.
he's fantastic. Yeah, but that's he's
Sounds
fantastic.
like you're saying that because you really don't know his music.
Yeah, no, he's really good. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Ox, his album Ox. It's XO but backwards. Anyway, all of this is to say he wrote it after he committed suicide. So, we really vamped into a joke there, and then it was very depressing after that. So, good work, Eric, is what I'm saying. So basically Rivers said that this was a way for him to, because he couldn't like go up and talk to her. So he wrote this as a way to let her know that he's thinking about her and all that, which you don't really see that a lot with Rivers pre this. You know, like you wouldn't really think that would be something he wrote during the Green Era or Maladroit, you know. Maybe Pinkerton, but I don't think that would fit in very well amid all of the sexism. So the album was released on May 10th, 2005. I was 13 at the time. So it was an incredible debut. 193,000 copies in the first week, which put it at number 2 on the Billboard 200, which is unfathomable, you know, for, like, especially Weezer now. Like, there's no way. Maybe Van Weezer might hit those numbers, honestly, because they've got, like, actual good trending songs with this one, but we'll see when that comes out. But the reviews were mixed, and I didn't normally want to talk about the reviews in these specials, but I had to this time because boy were they mixed. We got Rolling Stone giving it a 4 out of 5. Sputnik Music gave it a 1.5 out of 5. Slant gave it a 2.5 out of 5. IGN gave it a 9.3 out of 10. And the greatest review of all time comes from Pitchfork, which gave it a 0.4 out of 10. Which led to a wonderful and delightful text exchange between me and you, where you just absolutely would not believe that that they got a 0.4 out of 10 during this, which it brought me quite joy. Brought me a lot of joy there when I was reading through those and saw that it got 0.4. Good Lord. So the negative reviews tended to focus on like the overly poppy music, also, you know, that it was kind of mediocre. But a lot of attention was paid to the lyrics, where a lot of them, you know, people found, you kind of split into two camps, kind of like with Pinkerton when it first came out. You either really like it because the lyrics are so self-deprecating and maudlin, or you hate it because it's too self-deprecating or maudlin. But you kind of look at it, and it's like, well, this is the reason that everybody likes Pinkerton so much, you know, is because the lyrics are so personal and so, like, sad. But you're not going to like this because it's the same thing. I don't know. So hopefully this season we'll find out why people aren't a fan of this album. Why people aren't fans of this album. That sentence didn't work here, but I got a few random tidbits before we wrap up here. Sure. So the liner notes contain a monologue from Prospero from The Tempest by Billy Wigglestick. William Shakespeare, in case you're wondering. So I was going to read it, but I don't want to. So a lot of people think because of how it was said, because of that line, or the monologue, it was going to be their last album, which it's not, obviously, because we've got a few more to talk about after here. So on the first CD run and all vinyl releases, there were a few mistakes on there. We Are All on Drugs has some different lyrics, which we'll talk about when we get there. And This Is Such a Pity, there is a different drum fill, which we'll talk about when we get there. And then Perfect Situation, they recut the chorus, which I have a lot to say about that when we get to that episode. Surprising. I have opinions. Also, here's my my absolute favorite tidbit about this album. So it wasn't originally called Make Believe. They were coming with some different ones. So some things that came through were Either Way I'm Fine, which I think that would fit the tone of the album quite a bit. Another one was Somnambulist's Dream, which I found out that somnambulism is sleepwalking. Fun fact. And most importantly, our good friend Pat Wilson said he wanted the album to be called 1,000 Soviet Children Marching Towards the Sun. Which, oh boy. Can you imagine? Like, oh, hey everybody, welcome back to Feels Like Weezer. We're talking about Perfect Situation from 1,000 Soviet Children Marching Towards the Sun. It's almost as long as everything.
Go ahead.
It's almost as long as Everything Will Be Alright in the end.
Yeah,
but
right. Yeah.
Infinitely better than that title, and I love that title.
But don't you think we'd be saying OTS?
Oh, I absolutely would not. I would absolutely not be saying that. I would say the whole title every time. Well, it's the same thing with Everything Will Be Alright in the end. It's broken down to their, initials. It's an initialism. Ewebiti, Ubitsi. I don't know. And then finally, they were also toying with the idea of calling this the Red Album, which they obviously didn't because that's their next album, which, boy, am I excited to talk about. So that's basically Make Believe. Great season, Eric. We'll come back for the Red Album next. And, no, I'm kidding. But this is going to be a season of firsts, Eric.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
but not the first cover on an album.
Thanks for joining us for Feels Like Weezer. I'm Zach Fragging-Smith, and we're done. We're done with the podcast. No, we've got our first international guest, which I'm very excited about. It's the first time we're going to be releasing 2 episodes on one song, which I'm very excited about. Oh boy! And the whole reason that's happened is because I cannot keep a schedule. So, but yeah, other than that, so we nope, I don't have anything. So, what else you got?
Well, I think we could just mention do our little plugs here.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we're working on a Patreon.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we're working on one. But we don't have anything set up because here's the thing. I mentioned at the top of the show that my wife's pregnant. The baby is due in August, which is very exciting. We're hoping to get most of the stuff recorded before then, but there may be some sporadic, timing things that aren't. We're going to miss a few weeks, but, it's all because I'll be sleep deprived. Baby number 2. Woohoo. I'm actually very excited. Don't take my tone as not being excited. But, yeah, so we may have some gaps in programming there. But we were going to start a Patreon with Make Believe. But with all that happening kind of around here, we're going to push it back to the Red Album. Mm-hmm. But I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear what would you like to hear us talk about for bonus episodes. What other kind of things would you like to hear from us? Or, what will be tiers, like what kind of things you would like to see come from Feels Like Weezer with the Patreon? What would you like to see behind a paywall? Because we're obviously going to keep this show as free as possible. But, like I said, I've got another baby on the way. Babies ain't cheap. I don't know if you know this or not, but so yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys what you would like to see from us. You can talk to us about it on the Feels Like Weezer Listener Society, which is on Facebook. You can shoot us a DM on Facebook, which is Feels Like Weezer. Just look us up there. On Twitter @FeelsLikeWeezer. You can also send us an email, feelslikeweezer@gmail.com, and we'd be more than happy to hear from you. If you really want to, you could leave those suggestions in a review on iTunes, which is, something that if you don't want to support a Patreon, that's one way to help us, and it's completely free. So, yeah, did you see that? Did you hear that? Did you hear that brilliant segue, Eric? That was beautiful, and I'm getting no feedback from you all, and it's very depressing. Feels Like Weezer is part of the Pantheon Podcast Network. You can check us out at pantheonpodcast.com or follow us on Twitter, PantheonPods. You can listen to podcasts from former guests, Heather, from the Make It Stop podcast, and you can also hear Quentin and Travis from the No Filler podcast. But we also have a podcast on there from our very own Eric Nash. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, that's Almost Famous Minute. I think I mentioned at the top. And that's a movie by minute type podcast going over the movie Almost Famous. 1 minute at a time. So you can kind of see a little similarity here between that and this.
Yeah. It's almost like we just flat out took the idea from there. But we also have our TeePublic, which you do the designs for and everything. So, which are I love our TeePublic store.
And some
it's
of
fantastic.
The blocked designs.
Oh yeah, some of the too hot for TeePublic designs. You know, those are pretty spicy. But Eric, where can we find you on Twitter?
At Lucky Mustard, and I also have my Instagram at Lucky Mustardine.
And you can follow me on Twitter at The Informal Log, and you can follow my Instagram at ZSmithBGrayman. That used to be my whole thing, was it would be ZSmithB and then whatever the social media was. See? I knew how to brand.
For some reason, I thought it was a play on grammar, since you're a library. You were a librarian.
Right. We don't talk about those days anymore. No. It's Instagram.
Now.
Yeah. I used to be... Facebook was ZSmithBBookin.
Mm-hmm.
My Goodreads, which you can always follow me on Goodreads, is ZSmithBReadin'. Nuts. It's, that's how you brand like a pro. Anyway, so we'll see you next week for the first episode proper of Make Believe. We're going to be talking about Beverly Hills, which... boy, do we have people who have a lot to say about Beverly Hills. So, thanks, everybody, for listening. And thanks, Eric, for joining me today.
Yep. Well, thank you, Zach.
Yeah, I tried to do an outro. We really fizzled out there at the end. This is very disappointing to me.